Hello again, and welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. Paul Schrimpf here again with Eric Sfiligoj. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Paul, from our undisclosed locations.
From our very undisclosed. Now I'm back in a different room in the house again.
I see the lights. I see the little lights behind you, so I think I've seen this room before from a different perspective. So.
Yes, you have. You have been in our room. It used to be our daughter's bedroom. She's off on her own now, so as soon as she left, we took it over again, as parents will do, and now it's kind of claimed as our kind of music room and relaxing room. So that's nice.
By the way, speaking of your children, before we go on, I know that your son is now down at OSU, correct? Moved in and all ready to go. Is he okay? I've been reading some things about clusters down there, so I was wondering if he's all right.
Well, since today is Thursday, as of today, the clusters have been too close enough to the regular population that they haven't changed much. Some of his profs already went to virtual classes, even though wasn't necessarily required. So he's got 2 in-persons, and he says it's been pretty good. He says in general, the university has, I think most of the craziness happened, as we saw, I think, in the news a couple weeks before, as kids were moving in. They were having their parties, kind of getting out of their system. Now it's like, okay, what damage was done in the aftermath of all those gatherings? And that's, I think, what universities are experiencing right now. So far, OSU hasn't been that bad, but certainly I think they're still very much taking tests, making sure everything's kind of staying within a reasonable level. And so it's just getting by. I think like everybody else, just trying to manage it as best as we can. But he's said he's good about he's kind of a urban survivalist kind of guy. He's got his stash of food, he's got his music, he's got all his electronics, he can cook anything he needs to. He's pretty much loaded, so if he has to slam the door for 14 days, he's not going to wither away to nothing. So
okay. We'll see what happens. Well, good. I'm glad he's doing all right.
He's doing just fine. So we're so what are we doing? We're working on our October issue, which is our state of distribution report, and everybody's kind of contributing a piece to that. All of our editors. I'm working a little bit on e-commerce piece, and what we found in the survey over the summer that we did, the COVID survey, I thought was a little surprising, is that we didn't see as much. Retailers didn't seem to perceive as much adoption of e-commerce and digital purchasing as I would have thought over the summer, and no one seems particularly threatened by what did take place. And in general, in some of the follow-up interviews, I'm finding that seems to very much be the case. I think we'll definitely be looking, maybe not at this in this piece, but in the future, as to how much of this social distancing and using digital technology, how much it's really going to stick, and whether it continues to evolve, or if people get slammed back into wanting to be one-on-one. It's probably going to set a new baseline, but you wonder if it's going to be a big groundswell or not. I think that's something that we'll really want to look at and see what retailers should be prepared for in 2021.
Okay, yeah, no, that'll be interesting. Yeah, I would have thought the same as you, that there would have been more electronic means of communication and checking things out going on in the marketplace. But I guess maybe that speaks well to the traditional ag retail way of doing things. So, yeah,
communication is one thing, but commerce is another. I think there really wasn't as much purchasing as folks I would have thought. But yeah, I think folks were forced to communicate electronically or by phone, whether they wanted to or not, just because businesses were closed. Orders had to be picked up at doors and delivered in different sorts of ways that kind of don't speak to the the rural handshake and that closeness that you tend to get in the business side. So how much does that change? It's hard to say, but definitely in e-commerce, it wasn't quite what people were thinking. So that was interesting. So I know we got other news, so you want to get to, so take it over, sir.
Yeah, well, actually, speaking of COVID, of course, I know it's probably it's been a strange occurrence over the last couple of videos. If we didn't have news about another in-person event that was scheduled for 2020 going virtual. And this past week, we found out another one is joining the list. Our friends at the American Seed Trade Association, which normally hold their annual meeting in Chicago mid-December, have decided an in-person event does not make sense for 2020, so they're going to be going virtual, and they'll be taking place with that over December 7th to the 9th, I believe. So if you're normally in Chicago for the ASTA meeting in December, you can stay at home and watch it on your computer and take part that way, like almost every other event we've had here in 2020.
Sure. It's great to see folks at ASTA when we were able to go, but Chicago in December is that's a cold walk to the restaurant for lunch or dinner.
Well, I know you and I have we've both attended that meeting. We've both been taken, the L from O'Hare to downtown. And then, it's usually was, I think, about a 2 or 3 block walk from there. So, depending on the weather in December in Chicago, you're right. It was sometimes a little bit of a challenge, but we always were willing to take one for the team, so it was never really that much of an issue. I just know I remember teasing you one year about the Starbucks and where it was. We both noted it because warm coffee on a cold day in Chicago really does come in handy. So,
absolutely. So what else? We got China. China's in the news, right?
Well, actually, you mentioned the word baseline. So believe it or not, that actually came up in the China story I've got to relay. We've been talking about how, despite the fact the U.S. and China have been in a trade dispute and have been basically throwing nasty words at one another over and over and over, that China as a country keeps buying U.S. agricultural products. And it looks like, based on what the government is saying, that by the end of 2020, China will have purchased 40 million tons of soybeans from U.S. growers. And just to put that in perspective, Paul, that's up 25% from 2017, which the government said was the baseline year from the previous trade deal, that you can judge this trade deal using this trade deal as a baseline. So it'll be good news for the U.S. growers that are going to go, they have soybean in their fields. It looks like China's going to want some of them. Yeah,
and clearly they're coming back from the pandemic in pretty rapid fashion, and you would assume that equates to greater demand among the consumers in China, and maybe they're just that's yet another thing. You got to feed the populace. You got to keep things rolling when they're rolling. So,
well, and also too, I think they use the soybean for hog feed, I believe. So, and I know that they had that African swine flu epidemic go through China in 2019, but it sounds like the herds are recovering a little bit, or at least the ones that have survived are continuing to be hungry for more soybean meal.
That's good news. So, and anything else, sir? We got more?
Yeah, one other thing. As I mentioned in a video or two ago, I sent out our annual CropLife 100 survey to the top ag retailers in the country, and those surveys are coming back, and the first deadline for the survey is coming up here on September 11th. So to the 80-some companies that still have yet to get me their surveys, please send them in. But we did find out, Paul, regarding one of our CropLife 100 dealers, Landmark Agronomy Service. They have voted, their board has voted, that they're going to be merging with Countryside Cooperative. Both of those are based in Wisconsin. They're going to be actually formally merging as cooperatives in March of 2021. The combined companies will have 800 employees and about 600 million in overall sales. That includes crop inputs, fuel, grain, the whole shebang. And that actually they're going to be coming up to with a new and different name, and that we should know that before the merger actually takes place in March 1st. But when you're reading this year's CropLife 100, you'll see those two companies listed separately in the list, but we'll have little asterisks pointing out that come 2021, there'll be a combined cooperative under a single new name.
Interesting. So we're hearing hot little rumors of other things going on that we can't really disclose at this point. Maybe some folks out there have heard, but in conversations with a handful of people, it's it looks like everyone's trying to figure out how to do battle with the 800-pound gorilla Nutrien and everything that they're throwing at the market. What do you need to do to compete with, something of that size and scale? And now, we thought maybe we saw cooperatives hitting a scale at which they can operate effectively. It seems like now it's just yet another layer. It's going to raise the bar just a little bit higher, and these guys are going to want to try to get even bigger, get even more scope and scale in order to compete in their various markets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Paul, when we do the CropLife 100 in December, because I'm sure we'll touch on this topic a little bit. But then, going forward into 2021, I'm sure it'll be real interesting to see if this new trend we're seeing among cooperatives to merge together. I mean, a lot of times traditionally you have a weaker cooperative being acquired by a stronger one. But in this case, you've got, strong, financially solid cooperatives basically saying, let's pool our resources and formally do it rather than just forming a partnership. So again, I'm going to be curious to see what we find out is actually the driver behind this particular trend.
Yep, absolutely. All right. I think that's it, sir. Is that it for you?
That about covers it for me. So I got nothing else. But again, a reminder, folks, get your CropLife 100 forms to me so I don't have to hunt you down. Don't really want to do that again this year. No.
Everyone that had themselves hunted down will tell you it's just not a pleasant experience when Eric pulls up. It's just not. Well, that's it for this edition of CropLife Retail Week. We appreciate you joining us. Get those forms in, and we'll see you next week.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.